This happens to be the teddy bear that my sister, who died at the age of 46 with cancer, had for many years of her life, and she gave this to my daughter, who died with cancer a few years ago at the age of 32, 31 actually, for those of you who don't know. Hi, my name's Christine L. Conroy. Welcome to Happy Stuff and Fluff, a channel for women who are getting happy, living longer and growing younger. And yes, we are talking about purpose and meaning, ikigai, but for our purposes, purpose and meaning is what we are going to be talking about. I'm going to define those things, but what I really want to talk about, which I think is important to your happiness, is living a meaningful life. Now, if you look at the Conroy concept, which is my 7 steps for increasing your happiness and for living a full and happy life, shall we say, a flourishing life, then the second C, which is contribution, that's where I talk about meaning. And if we look at Marty Seligman and his PERMA, then he's actually got meaningful life in there. Now, this is a contentious thing for me to say. This is just my opinion. I'm not speaking on behalf of positive psychologists here. But for me, happiness is an umbrella term which covers all of these things, the concept, which includes meaning. Now, there's lots of talk at the moment and lots of research being done on the differences between happiness and meaning, and people are even saying you should not be pursuing happiness, you should be pursuing meaning. And I disagree with both of those things. I certainly don't like the term pursuing happiness. And the same applies to pursuing meaning, you'll understand what I'm talking about. I mean, for me, happiness is something within, and it's something that we create for ourselves. We have the tools to do that, thanks to positive psychology. Living a meaningful life kind of comes under that for me. Now, when you see purpose and meaning, first of all, the academic research on it is massive. It's a huge subject. I mean, it's philosophical and it's psychological, which is why it can all get a bit confusing. But some of the academic papers on it are, well, if you can understand them, you're a better person than me, let's put it that way. So we're just going to lightly touch on it. And if you stay to the end, I'm going to give you, I'm giving you food for thought all the way through. That's my intention, for you to think, because at the end of the day, meaning or meaningful life is subjective. It's personal. It's a personal thing. I'll explain what I mean by that in a second. So, we talk about purpose and meaning then, but lots of people talk about those like they are the same or interchangeable, and they're not really. So what does meaning mean then when we talk about it? Well, I saw lots of definitions and I loved them all. Some are a bit more complicated than others, as I say, but I particularly like this from 6 Seconds, where they say meaning is the emotional significance of what we do. So the importance that we give to something, and it's why we do what we do. Meaning is something we create and feel, and it's closely linked to motivation. So meaning is why we do it, why we do something. And then purpose is the cumulative effect of meaningful goals. So we define purpose as a long-term aim or guiding principle based on meaning. Purpose is the impact we want to have on the world. And then we have goals, which are how we achieve that impact. So of those 3 things, meaning is why we do something, the understanding behind why we do what we do. Purpose is the impact we want to have. And then our goals, aligned with our values, are how we achieve that impact. So if you listen to those definitions then, purpose is kind of a compass, and the goals are the actions we take to move in the right direction, and that's That's what gives us meaning. Now, as I said, living a meaningful life then, when you listen to all that, is personal. A very simple way of me explaining this to you. So, here we have a teddy bear. It's a cute little old looking teddy bear, and you look at that teddy bear and see a teddy bear. This happens to be the teddy bear that my sister, who died at the age of 46 with cancer, had for many years of her life, and she gave this to my daughter, who died with cancer a few years ago at the age of 32, for those of you, 31 actually, for those of you who don't know. Now all of a sudden, this bear takes on major significance, huge significance, and that's meaning. Meaning has been created. That's the significance to me of this bear, but not to you. So, where does that leave us? It's subjective. Meaning then is the placement of something, like this teddy bear, in a certain context. And by changing the context, you automatically change its meaning, which is what we just did then. So meaningful living is about placing your life and what it consists of in a context that makes it matter, that makes your life matter, thereby creating meaning. So there are certain times in our lives, where we find ourselves thinking, oh, what's the point? What's the meaning of it all? Now, apparently, around about the age of 40, I do believe, for men, I guess some women too, possibly for women round about the empty nest, and for both men and women, or rather some men and some women, around about retirement or 2 or 3 months into retirement, where their meaning in their life has involved being at work, and all that entails, and then all of a sudden they don't have that, and therefore feel maybe their life doesn't have any meaning. My answer to that would be, well, you'd better create some meaning, create some significance in your life for yourself, is what I would say. Go pursuing it somewhere else outside of yourself, but to create meaning. Now, with retirement, for example, well, let me just ask you, if you think about this question, what things in your life can you make more meaningful by placing them in a different context or by creating a different story around them? That's a way of creating personal meaning for you. But we talked last week about retirement. We touched retirement a little bit, and I will be talking more about retirement because I found it fascinating. But with retirement obviously comes more free time, and is possibly an opportunity to develop a new hobby or a passion. Now, finding a passion is one way for you to develop meaning. Now, obviously, I'm talking to those of you who might be thinking to yourself every now and then, my life doesn't mean the same anymore, or what am I going to do now? I know some of you who are retired are having a fabulous time and are creating meaning every day, all the time, and that's what I want all of you to do. That's what I want all of you to do. But if you are, struggling with that a little bit, then finding a hobby or finding a passion is one way to develop meaning. Now, we know. So a passion, what do I mean by that? A passion is something you love to do and something that you are good at. Now, these positive passions, as we call those, are worth developing, because not only do they help you to create meaning in your life, but older adults who have passions, not necessarily one, but passions in their life, score higher on all measures across the board of psychological well-being. And I'll talk about passions and how to find your passions in another video. But the meaningful life means finding out what it takes to grow older in such a way that you are not going to look back on your life with regrets. I think that's another way of looking at it. Now, a journal prompt I have for you. Have you got a pen? Get a pen and a paper. I'll wait for you. Or journal, I hope you have a journal. Okay, you ready? I want you to imagine, just close your eyes while you're listening to me now. I'd sing a gentle song to put you into a kind of meditative state, but my singing wouldn't put you into a meditative state. So just close your eyes for a second, and I want you to imagine for an awful minute, and God forbid, that you know you are going to die in 12 months. Now, immediately, hastily, what would you want to do before that happened? Write it down. Write down as many things as possible that you want to do before that happens, before you die in 12 months' time. Now, if you don't have time to do that now, I want you to do it in your journal and write down, like I said, try to write down 10. You thought, oh my goodness, I've only got 12 months to live and I haven't done this. I need to do this. I need to do this. I need to do this. Write it all down. And then what I want you to do is prioritise the things that you've written down. So 1 would be the absolute priority, and 10, if you've got 10, would be nice to do if you can fit it in, but not essential. And of course, you know what I'm going to say next. Start working on your list. Start to work on your list and get as many of those things that you've written down done. Start to live a meaningful life. Start to create your own meaning in your own life. Now, this is only a part of meaning. This is only one part, trying to establish what we actually mean by it. And I'll talk more about that as time goes on. But we need to know what the definition is, what we mean by it, so that we can measure whether we are actually living a meaningful life or not. Now, last week when I talked about Ikigai, they talk about it's not about changing the world, although you might have that down on your list. It's not about changing the world necessarily. It's about meaning in the small things, in the everyday things that you do. And that's why I wanted to talk about this idea of changing context and giving things meaning. Now, you may know your meaning and your purpose already, but you don't have to have just one. There can be lots of meaning in your life, and that would help you to live a meaningful life. Now, leading a meaningful life does not necessarily mean leading a life free from suffering. In fact, quite the opposite. What it is being able to lead a meaningful life despite suffering. Now, believe me, I know it is possible to be creating meaning under any circumstances. I know. And if I can do that, you can do that too. So it kind of builds your resilience as well. This is why it's worth doing. It is worth creating meaning. Using your strengths, we'll talk about that another time. Using your strengths to create meaning. Using everything you have in your arsenal to create a meaningful life for yourself. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Please subscribe if you haven't done already, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.